we're going to be talking about loneliness and leaving loneliness. So I just want to make sure that we're all working properly here because I'm getting okay, good. I think we're good. Hi. So today we're going to be talking about loneliness and in particular how to leave loneliness behind with your ex. But first, I want to just give you a little update as to what's going on with loneliness in the world. I've talked about loneliness before. It's part of grief. It's part of this transition that you're going through. It's definitely the last sort of stages of the grief process where we get into loneliness, denial, and loneliness before we reach acceptance. So I just want to tell you, it's not just you, it's not just your situation. It is a global phenomenon. So I just want to get into a little bit of statistics and just talk about what's going on with loneliness in the world right now. So prior to this whole COVID thing, scientists were stating that we are the loneliest we have been in recorded history. In fact, they said that we are 30% lonelier than we were in the last century, which is pretty alarming news and is really affecting us on so many different levels. Now, ramp it up with what we are just coming out of. I don't know if we're really going to come out of this. The idea of loneliness is now part of everyone's fabric of life. You can't bypass it because we are being so isolated. So when you're going through a heartbreak or trauma like divorce or breakup, it might seem like this level of anxiety that you might have around being lonely is just elevated because of what's happening in the global sphere of our energy. So let's talk about the seriousness in the global sense. So in 2018, UK established the Ministry of Loneliness, which prompted new research initiatives, including the government-funded loneliness and social isolation in mental health network. So this is a resource network and a support network that the ministry in the UK set up to help people find resources in order to, of course, deal with their loneliness. And according to a 2018 national survey by Cigna in the US, loneliness levels have reached an all-time high. Now remember, this is 2 years ago, with nearly half of the US adults that were in the study reported that they sometimes or always feel alone. And 40% of survey participants also reported they sometimes or always feel that in their relationships that they're which are not meaningful and that they feel isolated. So that's the significant part of the study that I wanted to focus on because it really resembles what you might be going through right now. You might be actually in the process of divorcing or still in a marriage where you know it has to be it has to end, but you're just fearful. And you know that feeling of being alone even when you're in a marriage or in a relationship where you're not connecting. There's no more love there. There is no reason for you to be in that relationship. And if you're out of it, you can remember what it felt like being in the relationship when, again, it wasn't working. So you are alone and you do feel alone. And I remember feeling alone in my 20-year marriage for most of it. We just weren't in alignment with a lot of things, and we literally started separating and living separate lives and not communicating, which made it even more lonely. So you can relate to this sense of loneliness and how it pervades every part of your body and every part of your life. I want to look at a little bit more of the statistic of what loneliness does to your body. So according to another study that was done by a professor of psychology and neuroscience at Brigham Young University, lack of social connection heightens health risks as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day or having alcoholic use disorder. is what they call it. So this professor also found that loneliness and social isolation are twice as harmful to physical and mental health as obesity. So it's quite a serious thing. Loneliness is an experience that has been around since the beginning of time, and we all have to deal with it on some level. And Dr. Emmy Rokash, a PhD at York University here in Canada, who's also a clinical psychologist, said that it's something that every single one of us has to deal with from time to time. And he explains it can occur during big life transitions, such as the death or divorce, or even when you move cities. So he calls this type of loneliness, or they call this type of loneliness reactive loneliness. So you get lonely because you're in a state of transition, right? So the state of transition, which is temporary, your reaction to it is to become lonely because you no longer have your tribe, you no longer have maybe a family support network or your friend network. You might have moved to another city or another state or another province in order to renew your life or to have a better life. And so the fact that you're on your own and you're in a new environment, and perhaps you're also looking for a new job, these are all conditions that can be labeled as reactive loneliness. They're situational. However, problems arise when the experience of this reactive loneliness becomes chronic. So when you're not able to come out of the loneliness, if you're not able to reattach to a friend base or create a new supportive environment and create a tribe for yourself, if you're not able to create some sort of stability in your life, and you're doing this for a long period of time, and this can also occur in a marriage that's gone on for a long time, where you're very alone in the marriage or in the relationship. And so loneliness then can become chronic, and this is where we see some real serious physical and emotional manifestations of the disorder of loneliness. So it is a serious thing, and I want to talk to you about it on a serious level, because isolation and solitude are one thing. When you consciously want to isolate and when you consciously want to be in solitude, that's something different. This is when you are feeling lonely and you're with a crowd of people, or if you're shopping and you feel isolated and alone and you feel like you don't have anybody with you. When you are clearly in a situation that is supportive. You might be living with other family members, or you do see other family members on a regular basis, or do have certain friends, yet you still have this sense of being alone and loneliness. And that is where chronic loneliness comes in. So your perception of your loneliness is really key here to how you label yourself as lonely. So if you are in a situation where you know you're connected, you have friends, you have the ability to connect with friends, and yet you're saying to yourself, I'm lonely, I don't have a partner, I'm alone. And if that's your dialogue, then you're going to just exacerbate that chronic loneliness feeling. And it's really not enough to just address social skills around that and go to therapy and try to reframe your mind. It's really important to start actively working towards not being lonely. Okay? So what I mean by that is learning certain things and making certain behaviors a habit. So I just want to reinforce again that going through a divorce or a separation brings on all kinds of fears. And the fear of being alone for the rest of your life is one of the top fears that I come across in my conversations. And it's one of the things that we absolutely deal with in my program and in all of the work that I do, because that sense of isolation can stop you from moving forward in your life. It can stop you from looking for a job. It can stop you from trying to connect with people. Even when they reach out to you, you can block them. the sense of also what I talk about in my masterclass is when we're heartbroken and we're in fear, we create a barrier. We create heart armor. And this creates an energetic barrier around our being so that we actually repel people and we stop ourselves from connecting in a meaningful way with friends and family members and anybody else that we come across that has the potential to be our friend and have a connection. So in fact, it's if you don't deal with your loneliness and your sense of isolation that you are in right now, you can actually stop yourself from moving forward on so many levels in your life, right? It's not just your romantic life. The fear of loneliness can also stop you from reaching out and getting a new job because of all the thoughts you have around your unworthiness, perhaps. So we deal with all of that on so many levels, but we need to put certain things into action, right? So let's get into the shakedown. So what I say is when we're in a shakedown and you go through this big life transition and you find yourself losing all of your resources and your friends and your acquaintances and your family members, it's really understandable to find yourself in some sort of like nowhere land because you're in transition. You're not here, you're not there. You've lost your sense of label of being a wife, a mother, a supportive partner. That's all gone now. So you have to now reimagine yourself. You have to reestablish yourself as the person that you are. No longer a wife, no longer a partner. Perhaps your kids have grown up and they don't need you anymore, and that also creates a separate sort of empty nest kind of loneliness. So this is your opportunity to reestablish who you are and really define how you want to move forward in your life. So I also want to just get you to understand that there is a gift in being alone and an opportunity for you to repair the relationship that you have with yourself. This is a time for you to really look at how you've been treating yourself. Have you been nurturing yourself? Have you been taking care of your needs? Have you been asking yourself, what do I want today? Have you been really putting your needs and yourself first? This is what has to change primarily. Then I want you to start learning some kind of some essential exercises or reframing around your loneliness. And I want you to understand some of the things that I've learned. I've learned that I'm never truly alone when I have people around me who love me. So if you can find people around you who clearly love you, then you're not alone. You're still connected to them. And in fact, honestly, you're still connected to all your friends and your family that you lost on some level. Those connections are still there, and it's your choice whether or not you want to reignite with those connections. But I can choose to be lonely and wallow in self-pity. Here's another thing. You can choose this, but ultimately that will stop because this is a transition. And then you will have learned a lesson of being resilient and moving through the loneliness in a powerful, wisdom-like way. And loneliness also gives you the space and the time to rediscover yourself and to fall in love with yourself again. Really appreciate all the things that you do for yourself every day and all the courage that it's taken for you to get here. So the Dalai Lama says, spend some time alone every single day. And you can do that because it's your choice to be alone. It's your choice to feel lonely. It's your choice to then move out of loneliness and then start connecting and reaching out with friends. So here's the 3 things that I want to give to you and I want to encourage you to do right now, this very day. If you are suffering from feeling lonely, if you feel that you are in chronic loneliness, no matter what you do, you still feel lonely, I want you to do these 3 things to push yourself and leave loneliness, okay? Number 1, connect with one friend every single day, even if it's a quick chat on the phone, even if it's a text, maybe a video chat. I highly recommend you start using video chats, whether it's on your WhatsApp, whether it's on Messenger, whether it's on Zoom. These are all free platforms, of course, until you're in the business part of Zoom. You can do it in any way. So actually having somebody physically there and seeing their face and seeing their reaction is just as good as them being physically with you. I do this often with my friends from overseas and from New Zealand. I have a good friend there. I have friends in Italy and Europe, and we just go on WhatsApp and we talk at least once a week. That makes a huge difference to keep me connected. Then I want you to reach out and think of all the fun things you used to do before your marriage, or maybe in your marriage or in your relationship, all the things that you love to do. And I want you to find a club. You can look for Meetup. You can join a virtual book club, any type of connection with other people in order to start connecting with new friends and start making a new tribe. Okay? I know it's hard to go places, although things are opening up right now. Go to parks because people are starting to get out, and just start saying hi to people. Start looking at them in the eyes as you go by. Don't get into the habit, because chronic loneliness is also a way of being. It's how you're walking, it's how you're looking at people, it's how you're connecting. So I want you to practice connecting with people by looking at them in the eyes, okay? No downward turn when you pass people. Look at them and smile. Look at them and say hello. Say hi to your neighbor, even though you don't like them. Say hi to your new friends, that, perhaps new colleagues, and approach them. You be the leader, because you're in control of this. You're in control of you getting yourself out of loneliness, okay? So do that. The second and the last thing, actually, the third thing I want you to do is to make a list of all the things you love to do. Just like before. However, I want you to make a list of the things you love to do that you couldn't do in your partnership with your partner. And I want you to start taking steps to accomplish them. Even if it's like traveling the world or traveling. Clearly we can't travel now. But I want you to start researching where you want to travel to. Make a travel folder. Have fun with it. Start visioning what you want to do. If you want to start scrapbooking, if you want to start doing I love this idea. A member came up with this and was telling me that she's doing this, is doing an ancestry type of research around her family lineage. And so by doing this, she's connected with websites and connected with family members that she didn't even know existed. So find yourself something that you always wanted to do and love to do, and start putting in the action and doing the steps to make it happen for yourself. And then at the end of the day, I want you to show gratitude for yourself, for showing up, for trying, for having the courage, and then for taking care of yourself. Lots of gentleness, lots of self-care as you move through the transition of loneliness. Okay, hope that was helpful. I'll see you next time. Bye.